Hi guys, welcome to the Author's Chaos. I'm SF Rogers.
And I am D.L. Golden.
And today, as you can tell, we are very tiny. We're going to show you a website called World Anvil, and we're pretty excited to talk about this. It's helped me a lot with my book and keeping plot points straight and helping me set up timelines and all of the things for all of the lore that goes into world building a fantasy world.
So let's start out with what World Anvil is, and you're probably seeing it on your screen right now. We are looking at the main dashboard for my World Anvil for the Dreamcatcher series. World Anvil is basically an all-encompassing organization tool for making up story lore and D&D campaign style lore setups.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can do on it. I have used it mostly for creating timelines, especially with writing my second book. Understanding the timelines of what is going on where and when really, really helps. And it is a really easy system to use and figure out. And then you actually get this nice, pretty timeline that you can see as you go. So you may get to see at my timeline if that's the case.
Yeah. Well, and within those timelines, there's also setups where you can set up family lineages and things of that nature, which helps if you have something like me where you have several high families that the story is kind of interweaving and locking.
Yes, so it can go very light or it can go very deep.
Very lore heavy if that's what you're into.
So we're just going to jump over there and have a look at what we have. That way everybody can see where we are. We should stay relatively in frame here with this. So looking at World Anvil here, I just went to the main dashboard. That's my Galaxis Kyklos dashboard. This is articles, anything that you are wanting to write down about your role-playing game, anything you want to write down about your story. Articles or artifacts that you can find in the world. This is that heavy lore-based stuff. Mm-hmm. I have nothing inside of the article section. I don't know that you...
mine is not heavy in articles right now. I had some notes about one of the families in my first book because I needed to be able to keep track of how someone made like their drastic fall into traitorous territory. So I had a couple of notes about how he would have kind of stumbled out of good graces, if that makes sense. But that's all I've used the articles for.
And if you're like a fan of Kingdom Hearts, those articles would be things like Ansem reports. They're just random little artifacts that you find around that give you background information to dig a little bit deeper.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Again, neither of us have used those articles very much, so that's not something that I can speak much to. The building. This is where you take note of different landmarks and different objects that are important in your story. So, for example, in your story...
The Citadel of Dawncourt. Yeah. And I have it all laid out there, like the description. It lets you lay out exactly to a T. Like if you want to describe the way the stones look and everything, it lets you set that up so you have a very active description of that building or landmark.
And does it allow for like pictures and stuff inside there?
I don't remember. Okay. I don't remember because I obviously don't have any pictures of the Citadel right now.
Gotcha.
But also for the second book, Frost Peak Mountain and then Frost Peak Chasm are both set up in there because they are massive landmarks in the second book.
Yeah.
So
they would be in that building.
They're in that building. It's something that's going to take up massive space. So like a fortress or citadel or a cavern or the library.
Something that's an important place of
note. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And we'll dig into a few of these a little bit deeper. I don't have a lot of stuff in these, so just bear with me for that. But obviously, characters, the character tab allows you to break down who you have, what they do, specifics about them. I think it can go down to heights and weights and things to like be really, really specific if you want to. Again, I haven't played with that. Mostly what I've used the system for is timeline building. Yeah. So that's something to think about as well. Country, this is where you find any details referring to territories or countries in your thing.
Yeah.
If you have a story like Sarah's where you have different courts, that's where your country
where I broke
information
those down. Right.
Me, I don't have that much. Right. I have cities, but nothing that big. Another thing, and you can tell how this lends itself to high fantasy a lot more than other building, but you can use it for other things. Gods and deities, I'll let you talk there because you have better
idea. I was able to set up all four of the major deities, and then the major villain is also deity level, godlike. So I was able to set up each of their profiles and kind of insert them into the different countries and then the religion. Because and you can see it on here, there's a religion tab just underneath of that, and you can set up the way that the multi-deity religion in my story works and how the magic kind of works. So it helped me, the deity tab really helped me keep track of like their descriptions for sure, but then like what they were the deity of, because that is immensely important in the religion aspect. And if I didn't have a specific place to keep them, they get lost in the characters.
Yeah.
So,
and with all of these are not blank slate. These are not blank slate. Here's a Word document, put all this information in. These are actually templates. So if you're writing a deity, it's going to ask for traits and divine things that this person is. When you're talking about a country, obviously that stuff's not going to be in there. It's going to be asking for specific stuff. We're going to dig in more closely with that, but it's very useful. Geography. This is for land masses. This is going to be what are the big features that need to be mentioned. If you have mountains that are really important mountains, if you have valleys that are really important valleys, where are they?
It also keeps track of your galaxies and star formations.
Yeah.
So, like the Natale Stellarum, which anybody who's read my book know that the Natale Stellarum is a very important star cluster. Yeah. And so it has a very specific geography tab on my World Anvil because it means so much. Yeah. So not only will it keep track of like the mountain ranges and stuff like that, but it will also keep track of your interplanetary world.
Yes.
If you're dealing with multi-universes and things of that nature. So it definitely also lends to sci-fi in that fact where you can keep track of where planets are in a solar system and universes and things like that.
And so what makes those planets
makes those planets up. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the next one, items. Items is where you're going to find the tools, weapons, things that you find. This can be as simple as your currency that you use in your world up to your entire magic system. For sure. So, for example, my tomes can fall into this section, and if you open it up, it'll say, what is this? And it'll break stuff down into categories where you can say, this exists in the world. This is all there so that you can keep track of information, because after writing 100,000 words, sometimes you end up running into issues where you're like, oh, this doesn't make any sense.
And there are people who are going to have questions for you that you wrote a note down but you never thought of again. Right. And they're going to ask and you're going to go, hold up. Like, I know where the explanation for that talisman is. Like, I know exactly what that is. Hold on just a second. Give me a moment.
Right. You know? And Sarah made a comment earlier that if you wanted to, after you go through and set all this stuff up, you can give a QR code to people on the back of a bookmark or something that says, hey, you want to dig a little bit deeper? Here's my World Anvil dashboard. You want to cascade into stuff and spoil things for yourself? Here it is.
If you are a lore lover, my whole timeline for everything that happened prior to the stuff in EOA is set up. Like, it is set up, everything down from when the deities made it to the world down to when Korra arrives, because I had to have that lore backed up. So, like, if you have world building like that maybe you aren't able to heavily put in the book.
Yeah, you don't want to bog
it is a place where you can put it where if people are interested at the back of the book, you can put the QR code and be like, if you're interested in the lore behind blah blah blah, here's where you find it.
Yeah. You could even link it to your website if you were.
And it can also help you if you're planning on doing prequel series, keep those things straight. Yeah. So World Anvil, I will die on the hill of World Anvil. I will. Like, I love it so much.
It's free.
It's you can
everything
pay.
That I've done so far has been free. There are upgrade versions that you can take, and they always have some big sale going on with it.
Oh, 100%.
If I were using it actively, I'd be paying for it because we need to be supporting corporations and companies that are helping like this. Right? It's good for that. So, moving on, organizations. This is going to be when you have different factions in a section.
So mercenaries and things.
Yes.
Within
For
the
example,
realm of your kingdom.
My thing, as in like the Citadel, is an organization.
Yeah.
Biblio is an organization. These places are necessary to keep separated and understand how they're different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that is where you would find that stuff. But you could also set up smaller things, secret societies, small armies, different clubs or guilds that people might exist in. If your world is that kind of deep thing.
Right.
The next one, religions. Religions is going to be where you break down, have you made up a religion? As we know, religions can get extremely complex in stories.
Yes.
And sometimes their rigidness or not rigidness can lead to different things happening in your story. So keeping track of what they are is really important.
Well, and this is a branch off of the organization's template, so that because some religions with fanatics, because that's tends to be a lot of what happens within stories, need to be able to be laid out in a way that it can be explained that the religion is definitely, like, this religious sect is definitely different than this organization within the same kingdom.
Yes. So. And so for people like, I'm losing the name. His story revolves around...
Nightshade? My story?
No. We met him online. I've lost it now. I see his face.
We met a lot of people online,
but he had a lot of religious symbolism throughout his story, and so it would be necessary to have AJ. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm like, AJ, if you out there, we didn't forget you.
My brain kept going JJ. I'm like, it's not JJ. That's a different person. So that would be where you found that stuff. That religion
to be able to keep all of the priestesses straight and all that jazz. That's what I ended up having to do with the priestesses of Nightshade and Helianthus to keep them all straight.
I forget you've made entire religions out of this thing. I will tell you, settlements is not something that I have worked much in. This is where you can find small villages and stuff. Like, for me, I would not have had countries, but I would have had settlements, as in Dione and Epetus and things like that. So they are... this is where you're going to keep track of what those look like and what their structures are. Right. Species, this falls in a lot with plants, animals, anything that you're going to run into.
So I literally had to use the species because I have high fae, I have sprites, I have kelpie, like I have fairies, the umbrella of fairies in my book. So like keeping track of the river guardian and the river spirits, because those are two different things. And then like the species tab really helped me keep the way that I wanted the creature conveyed. So like the river guardian is very protective of the realm that it guards, obviously.
Right.
But the river spirits can go from one body of water to another. They can move, but the guardian can't. And that species tab really helped me kind of keep track of what I had created, and then the lore. Well, and the lore that I had looked up to back up my claims of like, okay, this is a thing. Like, this is what it looks like, because I did pull a lot of it from fairy tales or from literal fairy tales about fae and Celtic and Irish history and stuff. So
and finally we end up with vehicles. As we know, you're going to end up running into a lot of different modes of transport and things. For example, Charlie's a mode of transport in my book. I have ships that are modes of transport in my book. I have flying ships that are modes of transport in my book. And so you end up with having to keep track of, okay, how much technology does my world actually have, and how do people get around?
I have a king who rides around on a polar bear.
Right, so it's got to be something, right? And we'll dig into each of these, but the point of this entire system is that you can go as deep or as minimally as you want with this 100%. Stuff, because you can get into a crazy sinkhole. It took me forever on my timeline, but if I kept going, I could very well plan out the entire timeline of Odyssea, which I will once I get through once I get through with it. It's a very useful tool.
I'm sorry, I was reading a comment.
We're talking about a specific program. This is World Anvil. It's free online,
a free website,
and we are showing it on the video right now for Descript. So we will post it, but it's a really useful tool. If you want to get like really stupid deep into lore, it's a good way to do it.
And if you are planning on your books not just being one or two, but you're wanting people who will possibly fall in love with your world to fall deeper in love with it. It's basically my Tolkien loving heart was like, I have everything I need to build a world as big as his.
And it allows Sarah to not put 15 pages of description about tree bark into the story.
Or about I have notes set up for the wars that took place before the High Fae came into the picture. Yeah. And like I can't put that in the stories right now, but it does mean something later in the stories where I need to have those notes of like, okay, so wait, what did this look like? Because she, like, in the new book that I'm writing, not to spoil anything, she was reading a history. Well, I have to create that history so that the history makes sense for what's coming next in the book. So, like, having those places where I could go back and be like, okay, so this is A, B, C, D, and then E happened so that this could happen.
Yes.
And World Anvil helped me keep that perfectly straight. Now, I know that there is, on Scrivener, you can set stuff up in your notes like that. I felt like World Anvil was more geared toward the fantasy side of me, where Scrivener felt very...
well, and Scrivener just kind of word docs it, doesn't it? It's not gonna put it into a setup. Like, I'm gonna show you what my timeline looks like here in a second. It's not gonna put it into a pretty little timeline that you can just follow with a line. It's gonna be this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's not designed for that. But we're going to look at a few of these tabs together here. It's not a huge amount. I figured we'd look at characters and items, things like that, to show you the difference. Yeah. So when we click into the character section, it loads up, and it always is going to offer you an option to purchase into the big stuff. But there's worlds, or there's videos and stuff that can allow you to create as much stuff as you want. Scroll down here. You are given information for the content, sections, relationships, designs, navigation, references. All this stuff can be added and changed and morphed as you like. You can tell, are these NPCs? Are they fodder? Are they plotters? Are they nemesises? What are they? This will allow you to show template-specific prompts and things. It just breaks stuff down in the way that this works. You can put their eye color in, their skin color, their pronouns, their hair, their species, age, height, ethnicity, weight, sex, secondary ethnicities, family, gender, presentation, all of this stuff.
You can even go so far as to like their religious belief, their current status, where they're at, the affiliate organizations, their current vehicles that they use, like any conditions they might have from like a demon bite or something. Like, there's just so much stuff where you can lay this out, and it lays it out perfectly in a character sheet. Where if you wanted to print the character sheet out when you were done, you could, and you could have notebooks full of your character sheets. Like,
right. And then it's just, it helps to keep track. I can't scroll with that. It helps to keep track of all of the different things that you can come across in your book. You'll start out with just a simple description here at the top, but then it breaks down into all of this stuff.
And at the very top, they have a space for you to name your character.
Yes. And then you can add character portraits as well and stuff like that. So we're going to go back and we'll look. I just want to compare the difference between the character sheet section and something like the items or the organization section. Something that's not going to be similar. Like if you do deities, it's going to be similar to character sheets, but it's not quite the same. It's a little bit different.
So item title is at the top.
Yeah, item title is at the top. You can tell what it is, and you can make a new one. Scroll down. Takes a second to load. It is kind of slow. Again, we get this standard general template that says, or this general standard space that says, hey, what is this? Then you can break it down to the further template. Now, further template, with this, we are talking about, we clicked on items this time.
So like a sword. Like,
so, yeah.
We'll say
you can tell what's the weight of the object, what are the dimensions, what's the base price, how rare are they, what history does it have. You can break down anything you want in here.
You can even insert the creation date. So like the creation date of like the Starbringer sword.
Yeah.
Just to make one up. Like,
right. Something that is going
or a boat.
Yeah. And not everything has to be filled out. If something doesn't make sense to fill out, it doesn't have to be. But these things are extremely useful. Mechanics and inner workings. Just different things. And the good thing about this is sometimes you don't consider all of that stuff when you're making an item, and you're like, oh, it may help to have that information.
Right, just hanging out.
But really, the thing that I have used this for is simply the timelines for my story.
Yeah.
And so breaking into a timeline is really, really easy, and it's really nice to see how those timelines are going to look. When we look at, let's see, I've got one here.
Where's your timeline?
Right up here. I can click into it. It's just. Oh, I may not have been in it. I may have just been in the open side. Yeah, close that. You're gonna get ads, obviously. If you pay free for it, it's not gonna have ads. But
Ella asked a question.
You may have already said this, but my audio has been cutting in and out. Yes, it is. It is free. It has ad revenue going to it. But if you pay for it, it cuts down. It takes all those ads away, I believe. But right now, everything I've used is free, and
everything I've done is free.
And so, if I click on my history here, but don't click too hard on it, it will bring up my timeline, which can break down histories all the way back from the beginning of the events up until you get into like your story. Like, I'm not even to Origins yet, but it breaks down to all of this stuff. And you do it by major events, cataclysms, things that are extremely important,
and
stuff like that.
And the fun thing about that is, as you add story, you can go back predating things that you already have and add them in, or go super far in the future, and World Anvil will just set it up in this, literally in this timeline. Like,
yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you need to insert it. It will, as long as you have the dates correct, it will, like, let's say your timeline starts in 1457 AD. Okay. If you need to put something in at 1205, you just type in 1205, pick what it was, someone fell in love and got married. And it will add, like, the marriage tab, and it will put their names, the date, and then you enter the description of exactly what that thing is, and it will insert it in there. And again, this is a printable thing where if you wanted the timeline laid out for you on paper, like where you could see it on the wall or whatever, you could totally do that.
Yeah. And it allows you to break events down into their categories. So, for example, I have, at the beginning of Origins, the attack on Dione, and so that is classified as a disaster. And then right after that, you get the fatal meeting of Sai, Michelle, and Amy, because that's a pivotal point throughout the story.
Yeah.
So it just breaks down into different things. Sai hospitalized.
And you can break this down, not even just year. You can break it down to month and day.
Yes.
So, like, for me, I have the month and day and year that Coral was born in there. But then I have the attack on the temple in there as an exact month and day, year to when her birth. So, like, that's also a really cool thing. If you are that in depth where you know birthdays and you know, like, marriage dates, you can put those in too, because sometimes those change history. Like, those are history changing moments. Like the cleansing of the summer temples in my book. It is a catastrophic event, catastrophic religious event, which they let you pick. And you can pick the day it started to the day it ended. So, like, if it went for a week, that's what it's on this timeline as, is it shows a week worth of this is happening.
Yeah, and you can set it for however little amount of time you want. It could go on for hours.
Yeah.
And you could have it set up there. It just, to classify it correctly, you have to put it, you really want to put stuff in a date order so that you know.
Don't just put it from a year. Do that in a minute?
I can. You just don't want to set it with just a year, because, like, mine is $23.95 for everything, and if I don't add or edit anything, then I don't get I don't add a month or anything, you're not going to get what you need.
Right.
If we click create new historical entry, for example, you will be taken to a page that looks like this. It's going to ask you which timelines they are occurring on. You select the one you want. I don't know why it has 3 there, but Then you pick the starting date. Everything essentially occurs in 2395. So I put that there. And then you choose your month, day, and the hour. And the hour is based in military time, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you don't have to put the hour if you don't want to.
No, if you don't need the hour there, but if you have stuff that's occurring in the same day, if you want it to go in order, you need to place
your hours
by an hour.
Right.
So, if you're having multiple events in one day, that doesn't happen very often, but you could.
Hello, we were talking about you.
We were. Yeah, and then you can put in the significance. What is it? Is this an important or national thing? Is this a minor regional thing? Is this a milestone? Is it era changing?
Right.
Which is stuff that you've said occurs in
your
your book.
I had 2 era changing things, and what it does in this timeline is it sets it up as a huge this is the breaking point in the timeline, and it shows this is where everything changed. This is where everything changed.
Yes, about little old you.
About little old you and your religions in your book.
So the stepping further down from that, after you choose how big an event it is, you can start choosing what kind of event it was. And so that can go from artistic creation, it can go from a celestial event, it can go to civil actions, constitution, beginning and end.
Or construction.
Beginning and end. Criminal activity, cultural event, anything. And there's a list
of
a laundry list. Yeah, of things to do here. But the point of it is to organize your stuff into a system that you can function with and use. World Anvil has been a lifesaver in writing my second book. Since I panstered the whole first book, it has been very, very useful to be able to go back and say, okay, this is when this happened. This is when this happened. This is when this happened.
Well, for me, in creating a polytheistic religion.
That's the word I was looking for, polytheism.
In creating a polytheistic religion and the wars that come with all the things happening with the usurper, World Anvil was something that for my ADHD, I could go back and I could see, okay, this is when the usurper cleansed the temples in the summer court. That was an era changing, thousands of people died. And then underneath of that, you see that Cora is taken to the human realm. It crosses over where she leaves. That's an era changing. Mm-hmm. She's gone. She's no longer in their realm. She's in the human realm. So World Anvil was enough for me to keep my attention to where I could go back and be like, okay, so this happened here, that. Okay, so Cora at this point goes to college and meets Jim. That's where she meets him, right? So World Anvil, again, for my ADHD, was something where when I wanted to world build out 2 whole chapters, I could put that all in notes on World Anvil. I could break that down on the timeline, and then I could cut that out of the book and save it for later.
It breaks it into digestible chunks.
Yes.
That's the big issue with putting your stuff down in a big notebook. If you are not very organized, the stuff can get lost in a well of just information.
Well, and the great thing about the dashboard on here is you can break it down. You have 3 different, it comes up in 3 different histories because it also breaks down each era event.
Yeah.
That's why you have 3.
Probably, yeah.
So if you're wanting prior to Origins, it shows you prior to Origins. Then it shows you Origins, and then it shows you after. Which is the one thing for me that was really great because it breaks it down in prequel. Yeah. That's what it says, prequel. EOA, second book.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for that help in your world building and keeping your lore straight, World Anvil is definitely something that I would recommend.
Yeah, that's what we had talked about, Ella. Giant Word docs full of information. I have a note on my phone that keeps track of a lot of stuff, but it's just words. It's a wall of words.
I can't find anything in that.
If I'm wanting to break it down to a digestible thing for me to look at, or if I want to put a QR code in the back of my book that leads to this website and says, here's the dashboard. If you want to just dive and sink into this lore, here's the information.
100%.
And it's really, really useful. We don't have enough time today to cover every aspect of World Anvil because it's such a massive, massive, massive
But I think it's within the articles. You can set up different articles in here. So like your world atlas, your world encyclopedia. So your world encyclopedia can break down all of the things that have happened in a scholarly way, like whatever. And then your staging area. So for like all of the things coming up, like what are the stages that are being set for the next things? This is huge. So World Anvil also provides you a articles themselves to introduce you to the encyclopedia, introduce you to the world of World Anvil, how to stage your world. So if you are one of those people that needs help breaking all of that down, World Anvil is such a cool thing that you can use, and they are so helpful. They're so helpful on Discord. Like you can get on their Discord at any time and be like, hey, I'm having trouble. And someone will be like, oh, this is how you break this down in this tab.
And it's not all just text-based learning either. There are videos that can walk you through, hey, here's how to set up an event. Here's how this works. Here's how this works. Or if you're just a person that wants to dive in and just start pounding away at things, you can do that too. There's so much stuff you can do. You can put manuscripts into the system itself.
So you can add as many manuscripts, I think, as you want. But you can keep your writing in here. That's what this says. A streamlined novel writing software seamlessly connecting your world Bible.
Yeah.
So like there is so much that I don't think we've even explored about World Anvil, but like if you're needing fantasy world building help or help keeping track of all the things, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's...
What did AJ say?
He said maybe in the real world Anvil was just the friends we made along the way. Probably.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing tool, honestly. And when I found it the first time, I basically just started putting timeline information in it for Odyssea. But since then, it has become a major stay of getting stuff figured out and trying to make sure that things stay in the order they need to stay in. I can't even begin to tell you what some of this stuff is. Stat blocks.
So this lays out like your stats
if
for
you're doing,
items and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's just literally like
much. I mean, if you're a person that's easily overwhelmed, it's better to stick to the dashboard.
Yeah.
And just work your way around. But if you are willing to dive in and put the time and stuff in, you can make a really deep world with the tools that are designed here.
Well, and then from that deep world building you're doing here on World Anvil, you can pick and choose the things that need to be interspersed into your book where you're not overwhelming everyone with it, but it's there.
Yeah.
So that if you need to build on that, like if you say, oh, the talismans were created by the Natalis Stellarum on a cold winter's night, whatever. Like you can say that in the book and then have that whole magic system laid out on World Anvil and go back to it if it needs to be dissected or picked apart. Now I just made that up. I have no idea where that came from. Right. It's not real. So.
Yeah, and if you're watching, you're probably getting glimpses of an unfinished timeline for me for stuff before Origins. So, but all in all, it's a great tool. We've both used it. I plan on continuing to dig more deeply into it. If it's something that interests you, you might check it out. We're going to try and put the link in the podcast notes for this stuff. And if World Anvil wants to support us at some point, by all means.
We would gladly...
take a free subscription. So... This has been The Author's Chaos. I am D.L. Golden. My book Origins Redux is out right now. You can check it out on Amazon. Odyssea is coming. I'm almost all the way through edits, so I will have alphas and betas reading that soon.
I am SF Rogers. Execration of Autumn is available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. You can find me in my link in my bio on TikTok and Instagram and Threads and everywhere. Just come follow me. I am 22,000 words into the second book. Super excited for where it's going. Going to be on World Anvil today, putting in a lot of things that I've just been kind of info dumping for my first draft. But come follow me, hang out. We'll have a good old time. Oh, and don't forget, if we can get us up to 1,000 followers on the Author's Chaos TikTok page, we will be writing the Sentient Motorcycle story. And surprise, our dear friend Ella has created a mechanics soap for that book.
We got things.
Specifically for that book. So we won't be selling that book. That will be something that we're just kind of...
we'll
join our Discord.
We'll send it out.
Join our Discord. That way you can get your hands on it whenever it releases, and we'll get you taken care of. But Yeah.
Oh, last thing. We will be at JomoCon at the end of July. I want to say that they are going to have us on a panel of writers. We are going to be discussing all kinds of different things there and trying to sell a few books. If you want to come meet us or you want to come and get a book, sign book, all that good stuff, we will be there. We've been the Theauthorschaos. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah. See ya.